Greetings from Nairobi, Kenya. Greetings from around the world. We welcome you to GatherVerse She Summit 2026, Day 2. For those who are watching live at gatherverse.live, we welcome you. For those who are streaming from various social media platforms, we greet you. And for those who are watching us from the comfort of their VR headsets, we greet you as well. My name is Dengue Tao, Communications Director for GatherVerse. Women can lead. Women do lead. The powerful words of our founder, Christopher Lafayette, who is cheerfully watching us behind the scenes. Women do lead nations. Women lead continents. Women lead industries. Women lead communities. Women lead families. And today, we're joined by those who lead the industry of extended reality, the metaverse, spatial computing, and the future of a connected world. We're met by those who are advancing humanity's progress. And those in the field of medicine, they are with us today. Shout out to our friends at XR Women. We enjoy our beautiful partnership with you. Yesterday, we covered intensively about leadership, health, and artificial intelligence. And today, we're only going a further distance away, and it keeps getting better. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing. And in Swahili, I would say, Karibuni sana. We appreciate your presence. Until then, may our gather be well. Up next is our first keynote by Julie Smithson. Expand, empower to expand, women leading human innovation. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just going to share my screen here to give everybody a bit of a presentation while I'm speaking here. Hello, everyone. My name is Julie Smithson. I'm co-founder of Unlimited Awesome, an entrepreneurship education Web3 platform, and also started a company called Metaverse 10 years ago, building spatial computing experiences for marketing, training, and collaboration. In my journey, and shortly after the pandemic lockdown, I became a co-founder of XR Women Global as a way to bring more women leaders together who were also learning about these emerging technologies. Defining XR, extended realities built with spatial computing to provide 360 degrees experiences with interactivity and presence through augmentation and mixed and virtual realities. Add the worlds, the assets, and the avatars, and there's an embodied metaverse presence that one has in these experiences. XR Women launched in November 2020 and has cultivated a vibrant global community through weekly in-world immersive learning experiences with our presence as avatars. Our approach was to learn by doing, bringing other women to our stage to share their work, real-world impact, and insights with the community. 5 years and over 245 events later, our XR Women community of 1,500 women from over 60 plus countries is a powerful source of knowledge, bold confidence, grit, and determination. Seeing so many XR women colleagues this week and here today, I extend an open invitation to you to join the XR women community. Connect with us to enrich yourself through education on emerging technologies and their impact, and become part of this incredible network of women who are actively building the future. Thank you to everyone here today for showing up, for those who will watch this later, and for all of you building the future with intention. My talk today is called Empower to Expand: How Women Are Leading the Next Wave of Human Innovation, because I believe we've reached a turning point, not just in XR, not just in AI, but in how we design human systems, systems that shape identity, access, trust, opportunity, and belonging. And in this next wave of human innovation, I believe women won't just be included, women will be leading. We are living in a moment where technology is accelerating faster than the systems around it. AI can generate content instantly. XR can place us into shared spaces. Spatial computing can make the digital world feel present. But the surrounding structures, the onboarding, the governance, interoperability, safety, culture, and business models and trust, those don't automatically evolve at the same speed. So the question isn't, is the tech ready? The real question is, are our systems human ready? And that's where women have a distinct advantage, because women tend to build with context and with care, and with an instinct for long-term sustainability. Women possess inherent logistical superpowers. Our distinct makeup equips us with an innate ability to coordinate multiple simultaneous tasks, from organizing a presentation, coordinating children's play dates and planning family travel, paying bills and running team meetings, often within the span of just even 5 minutes. This multitasking proficiency translates directly to the demands of spatial computing, where one must concurrently manage AI assistance, governance, logins, passwords, avatars, interactions, and a whole host of other complex variables. With our she superpowers now clearly defined, it is evident that we are incomparable to the linear thinking of our allies. Now let's apply our superpowers. How will we empower ourselves to expand? It's time to stop waiting for permission to engage with the future and to start actively shaping the conditions of it. This requires us to expand our spatial thinking, to move beyond the simple division of physical versus digital, and truly grasp the new dimensions of opportunity. The core idea is this: true progress demands both empowerment and expansion, working in synergy, fundamentally rooted in human-centric systems. Empowerment without expansion remains unrealized. It needs an expansion of both our thinking and our actions to create impact. Expansion, whether of reach or virtual space, becomes unsustainable and extractive if it isn't deeply anchored in the needs of human-centric systems and focused on empowerment. We must strive to achieve these two principles in concert together. Human-centric systems are the hidden structure, the invisible architecture behind all of our digital experiences, whether they're 2D or 3D. They answer critical questions about power and access. Who has easy access and who's blocked? Who truly owns the identity layer, and who sets and enforces the rules? Who benefits financially from the system, whose safety is prioritized, and who's left vulnerable? In every case, when I say who, I'm referring to the community. Community is not merely a feeling or an atmosphere. Community is infrastructure. And when this infrastructure is intentionally designed and robust, community acts as a powerful force multiplier, leading to increased resilience, deeper trust, better user retention, elevated creativity, stronger overall outcomes. Human-centric systems are the foundational infrastructure for the next wave of innovation. Our system's values are rooted in the synergy of empowerment and expansion, prioritizing human sovereignty through deliberate design. We commit to building durable, resilient frameworks by cultivating trust as a practice and championing intentional leadership that collaborates with communities to ensure protection, equitable access, and long-term sustainability for all. There are 3 leadership strengths women bring to the next wave: and that's why they matter now. Number one, spatial intelligence, seeing systems, not just features. Women are often systems thinkers. We notice what connects, what breaks, and what's missing. In XR and spatial computing, the product is never just the headset or the app. It's the ecosystem, the identity, the access, the safety, social norms, onboarding, and continuity. Spatial intelligence is not just navigating 3D space, it's the ability to design experiences where people feel oriented, capable, safe, and connected. And that is leadership. Strength two is trust building, the most underestimated growth engine. The next decade won't be won by whoever builds the most content. It'll be won by whoever builds the most trust. Trust looks like transparency, standards, consent, safety, predictable rules, accountability, and a respectful culture. This is where women leadership changes the outcome, because trust is not a policy. Trust is a practice. And it's a practice women have had to master just to survive many industries. Now that skill becomes the competitive advantage. And then community building. The core of community building is a philosophy of building with people, not for them. Women exemplify this by building together in a way that is not superficial, but durable and purposeful and intentional. These collective approaches creates ecosystems of mentorship, social scaffolding, continuity during change, signal integrity when platforms shift. In emerging technology, continuity is paramount as tools are transient, and what endures are the people. To design truly human-centric systems, we must cultivate a perspective wider than our own. This perspective is not found in isolation. It is forged through connection and community. In the next wave of innovation, the true advantage isn't a singular vision, it's a collective one. Connection is the ultimate intelligence multiplier. When women build with a philosophy of with and not for, we inherently reject the limits of a single viewpoint. Our strength is in the gather, the constant exchange of insight across diverse boundaries of geography, industry, and background. This deep connection relates to elevating signal integrity in a world of noise. Our trust networks allow us to distinguish what is real and enduring from what is transient hype. Also, this connection challenges blind spots by building across differences, mentoring someone from a different background, for example. We actively confront the biases and assumptions baked into our own systems and design choices. And also, the connection creates durable insight, a perspective gained through a global, intentional community that is resilient. It's a lens that sees beyond the immediate feature set and into the long-term human impact. This is the power of connection. It is the mechanism by which individual empowerment expands into a collective, sustainable future. There's a concept called the broken rung, the barrier that stops talented women from advancing into leadership early in their careers. Often this is due to the demanding responsibilities of being mothers or caregivers, which can lead to a perceived lack of time or flexibility, making the leap into more senior roles or entrepreneurship seem impossible. What's powerful about this moment is we can design a system that doesn't reproduce the same old bottlenecks. We can build mentorship that scales, skill verification that's portable, networks that open doors, opportunities that compound. XR and AI can finally make leadership development accessible, continuous, and global, not locked behind geography or privilege, but only if we build it deliberately. Let's talk about what's next, practically. The next wave of immersive technology will be shaped by three battles. Identity. Identity is owned by if it's owned by a single company, then presence is fragile. Human-centric systems require identity that supports portability, privacy, consent, and dignity. Interoperability. We need worlds that connect, not walled gardens that reset your relationships every time you switch platforms. Interoperability is not just technical, it's cultural, it's governance, it's standards, and it's respect for people's time and their digital lives. And then third, ownership and recognition. People need ways to carry their work, their reputation, and their contributions, not as hype, as recognition, credentialing, and economic mobility. The next wave's innovation paradox, the power of the powerless, is one women are uniquely positioned to wield in leadership. We must build rules for human sovereignty and protection in a non-extractive digital space. Women's historical experience navigating systems not built for them offers an essential problem-solving advantage. Masters of survival, they ensure sustainability and are natural champions for protective systems-oriented solutions. Women know how to protect and scale. Systems thinking designed for the vulnerable to build resilient systems for all, addressing access, privacy, consent, portability, and dignity, often compromised by centralization. Women also know about earning and rebuilding trust. Trust requires transparent, accountable practice of building with the community, a skill women excel at, addressing the trust deficit through ethical governance. And also about urgency of self-custody. Fragile identity and reputation demand sovereign identity, with women and the historically powerless driving the need for digital due process. This collective demand for sovereignty and protection, driven by women's problem-solving acumen, is not a challenge to progress. It is the highest form of progress. It transforms women who were once passive users into active infrastructural leaders, building the very foundations of a resilient, human-centric future. So you've experienced the power of GatherVerse and the invaluable learning from a global community at this SHE conference. Use this energy to empower yourself and build your own call to action. Here are 4 ways you can act immediately, starting today, to expand your knowledge, skills, and your network and broaden the human-centric reach of everything that you do. Host a conversation in your own space, not a panel, a real conversation, and invite 5 to 10 people from your existing network or a group you've just joined. Choose a topic, identity, safety, mentorship, onboarding, or interoperability. Use these discussions to build connections and document what you learn from your community. Number 2, mentor one person across a boundary and join a relevant group from a different country, age group, background, or industry. The cross-pollination accelerates the whole ecosystem. Find a professional group or community focused on bringing these boundaries to expand your skills and connections. Third, build one small piece of community infrastructure, a template, a guideline, a best practice document, or a resource list. Community infrastructure compounds. Share it with a relevant group or platform to connect with others and expand its reach, and then gather feedback to improve your skills. Finally, choose collaboration over competition and expand your network. In the next wave, isolated wins will not matter as much as the shared standards. Let's work to uncompete. We will move forward together instead of battling backwards. Actively seek out individuals and organizations whose goals align with yours. Join communities and groups dedicated to shared standards to build deep connections and expand the human-centric reach of your work. I'll conclude with this thought. We are developing technologies that can simulate reality, but our true mission is to create the conditions where people thrive. Human-centric systems aren't accidental. They're the result of intentional leadership. Leadership that's bold enough to genuinely care and skilled enough to execute at scale. This is precisely why women are the ideal leaders for this role driving the future of innovation. So when I advocate to empower to expand, I'm calling on all of us to build the future based on courage, structure, trust, and collaboration. The next era of human innovation will not be defined by the loudest platforms. It will be defined by the communities that can support people, cultivate leaders, and continue to build through every change. And women are perfectly positioned to drive this work. Thank you, GatherVerse, for uniting this incredible group of women. Thank you for being here. Our gather has been well. Let's continue building what's next together. Thank you. Well, hello. Hi, Karen.
Hi. It's really great to see you. So we are here as two of the co-founders of XR Women. We have known each other for a very long time, and I am delighted to be here as one of the many members of the XR Women community participating in the GatherVerse She Summit. And I thank Christopher Lafayette and the GatherVerse team for welcoming us and for what an excellent job they've done in making this opportunity for us to hear women's voices as part of the superhero engine GatherVerse She Summit 2026. So, Sophia, as I said, we've known each other for a very long time, and I think we can almost call ourselves industry veterans at this point. I've been in the industry for 10 years this year, and you have been in maybe even a little bit longer. And you've worked at companies producing XR. You have worked in military context. You are currently working with the World Bank, and you are now doing an MBA at the Kellogg School of Business. And I want to ask you if you can talk a little bit about how your experience of starting this MBA has allowed you to reflect on the XR industry and all the ups and downs you have seen along the way and where we are with that technology now.
Yeah. Well, first I'll say one of the things that I love about being in this industry is that I get to learn about all these different industry sectors as it relates, like through the lens of the technology. And I feel like going to Kellogg and starting my MBA program there has allowed me to do that even more, because I am the only one in my class that has the experience I do in my sector. So I think I'm the oddball out there, but in a great way, because it's just so rewarding to be able to reintroduce this technology to people in my program. And it's more fun to do it now because people actually have a vested interest in the technology. They've either seen it before through gaming context, through their kids, or through a professional context, and some time in the timeline of the work that they've done, and they've had some exposure to it. And so it's really, really cool to be in a time where people are actively asking to learn more about the technology. Whereas 10 years ago, when we first started in this industry, and then even before that, I'm sure we were educating people on what the term VR and AR and XR was, while also telling them why they need it. So it's a little bit easier to do that now and tell that story. And it's definitely really, really cool to be able to introduce the technology to the class as it relates to the work that they're doing, and seeing a lot of inspiration come about from the conversations that I'm having.
That's great. That's really great. And I know that we've talked before about the ways that we see XR sort of creeping into the lives of the general public in a lot of different ways, and including things like with immersive cinematic experiences like Cosm, where we went to see The Matrix together. And I wonder if you could dive into that a little bit more deeply. You have such a great view of the industry. You've interviewed so many people in so many aspects of this industry, and you sort of see what is going on in a very broad way. So what do you think about the ways that the technology is being adopted, even if it's not very obvious?
Love having this conversation, and we had a great one about this prior to this call. And I actually, if you go on my LinkedIn, I posted something about this. I think it's one of my last couple posts from an interview that I did with a friend, Mohammed Hafez. And a couple of things. First and foremost, in terms of large scale adoption, I mean, people always ask about it, but I think they're mainly talking about it from a consumer lens, consumer perspective, because that is what is easily accessible in terms of understanding, where the technology is on the spectrum of adoption. However, what we don't see are things behind the scenes in the enterprise setting. You see it a lot in definitely the military when we talk about training and simulation. The DoD is building what's called a synthetic training environment, which is basically a replica, a digital twin of the entire world, of which they can train in. And then you see it a lot in manufacturing, Industry 4.0, anything where it just makes more sense to view something in a 3D realm, and it cuts costs and makes things even just a little bit easier. There are case studies with Walmart and Accenture that were buying like 50,000 headsets. And I'm sure they're continuing to experiment with that as well, and especially as content creation has become more democratized and easier and cheaper. There's no reason why entities like that would quit when it's just becoming easier and easier to do when they've already invested so much. The second thing I'll also say is from a consumer perspective, is that there are lots of ways that we are already using the technology that we don't even realize, such as any time you use a filter on social media, for example, even on your face, even if it's not necessarily adding bunny ears or eyelashes and those things like that, like any type of filter is augmented reality. And then obviously placing objects within a space, furniture, IKEA, Amazon, even Google has these built-in features. That's augmented reality. It's device-based AR. And also, I want to say that, and we talked about this a little bit, the context of when we speak about immersive technology, I think just needs to shift a little bit. It's obviously easier. People know the terms AR and VR, so it's easier to kind of start the conversation by mentioning the technologies in those contexts. But it's not just, first of all, it's not just headset device-based experiences, right? Where we did a lot of work in promoting the capabilities of WebXR, the idea of being access immersive environments and objects within 3D spaces, and we meet there all the time in our spaces in Verbella and Frame and Arrival Space and others. But talking about XR and kind of shifting away from that to this spatialized context of what does that actually mean, right? We talked about 3D and just basic immersive experiences. Being on the phone, being on the web. And I even talked about spatial in terms of geospatial technology, right? Being able to do spatial vectors within a space. I mean, we need this GPS system to be able to do that, to be able to have this 3D augmented context within the real world. So all of these things are very, very important components of spatial immersive realities. So I would urge people to in the industry, especially when you're talking about this technology, talk about it in this holistic sense, so we can have people have the understanding of why this technology is important now and will continue to move forward and grow. I mean, even Uber is a spatial contract, right? Getting out of the car in Uber, it knows the velocity at which you're traveling and when you're leaving the car, and so that is, again, a capability that we adopt into the immersive visual spaces context that we're talking about.
That's great. Thank you for that, Sophia. We just have a couple of minutes left. And so I want to kind of wrap up on talking about the relationship between the sort of industry insiders. And I think there's a way in which we consider ourselves very much as part of the XR industry. And a lot of the work that we do and the work that we do with XR Women is meant to help bolster this industry and to make it better, make it a better place to be. But there seems to be sometimes a little disconnect between the ways that the adoption is taking place and what's going on in the industry. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I guess first we spoke a little bit about there is a disconnect specifically in the roles in the industry and what we expect from industry insiders, right? What the terms that we are kind of looking for, the keywords and roles and responsibilities for people in our industry when we're going out to look for new opportunities versus enterprises and big companies that are hiring for these roles. And I've talked to recruiters about this issue, and there is a disconnect between our expectations of what we're looking for, and then enterprises and other organizations that are looking for people with our expertise. They don't know how to get in touch with us because there's a mismatch in potentially where they're looking, but specifically the role titles and descriptions and all of that. And it's hard. So it's hard for that connection to happen sometimes for companies that are not inherently in the space. And so I think that's actually a lot of the work, kind of like the indirect work that XR Woman does, and kind of highlighting the talents and the knowledge in the space, and kind of fills in that gap of helping organizations and entities outside of our space kind of connect with that knowledge.
That's right. Yeah, no, I think I would agree that we're bigger and more visible as a group than we are necessarily as individuals. There's power in community and in gathering together, and we need to make sure that we are reaching out from within this bubble inside XR and connecting with all the other industries who have so much to gain from XR technologies and already are starting to try to do it. They're interested in it. And it's creeping into our lives, and I mean that in the best possible way. Sophia, I want to thank you again. It was really a pleasure to speak with you, and I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to take part in GatherVerse, and we look forward to the next session, which I will be moderating, and there will be many more members of our community there. So best of luck to you in your MBA, and continuing to be an advocate for XR and spatial and immersive technologies, and continue on your journey.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. What a pleasure it is to see you all here. Some people here who are very, very dear to me. Wow, this is just incredible. Thank you to GatherVerse and the She Summit for welcoming XR women and women who are working in immersive media and AI, and giving us a platform to share our expertise and our thoughts. I would like to acknowledge that our title of our panel is Women Guiding the Future of a Connected XR World. And I really feel like we are doing this. And we have a set of slides that GatherVerse has prepared questions for us. And I would like to raise these to put them in the show. And okay, all right, I believe they are there. Yes, and so the first question, what I've done here is I have, in the interest of time, I have selected one question that I want to address to each of you. And we will try to spend no more than 4 minutes on each of those. So if there is time for others to join in after that person has had their say, then please do so. But we'll move on because I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to shine, to be in the limelight a little bit. So I want to start with the youngest member of our panelists here, in Lauren Desher, who has a master's degree in virtual reality at the University of Arts London. But she's been coming to XR Women for a long time, even though she is very young. But I think it's important for us to hear from the next generation on this question of how XR is evolving from novelty to infrastructure in an AI-powered world. So Lauren, take it away.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, it's great to be here. I just want to give like a short introduction and say that I'm also part of XR Women, and this has been a really great community for me to be a part of, and it's really helped shape my foundation to getting into the industry. And it was really great seeing everybody here, and the people before me speaking are founders. And also, yeah, I'm going to be creating after this I'm going to be working with GatherVerse, and we're going to be making shorts to make sure that these conversations get brought into the future and they don't disappear. So we're going to be creating highlights and making shorts for people. So if anybody's interested in that, for speakers afterwards, you can reach out to me if you have any ideas or contributions. Let me know, and LinkedIn's a great place to find me. Yeah, so for the question, how is XR evolving from novelty to infrastructure in an AI-powered world? I think that a good way to start this off would just be by saying that XR stops being a headset experience and it becomes an interface layer. So spatial collaboration, being able to meet with people all over the world and actually feel like you're present with each other. And this has been a really cool experience through XR Women, just because even though we have people from all over the world, it feels like I've gotten to know everyone. And whenever I see them in person, it's a lot more comfortable. And yeah, I've been able to build more meaningful relationships and conversations through spatial technology. That includes events even like Athena's birthday party, where we were able to have all different kinds of DJs and special effects that really add to, rather than just sitting on Zoom where we're just kind of like face to face, there's a lot of things where you can experience together and then you can talk about it and point out different cool immersive like lasers going everywhere and all the different kinds of art installations. That also goes with like Paige's XR Women Museum. This is a really cool space for people to be able to show their art and see it and explore it together. I think that AI also makes XR useful because it adds understanding and automation. So there's object recognition and then scene creations. So it allows artists to be able to create in a new medium, I think, which is super exciting. And this is something that you can make a space and then you can leave it there and have people, you can direct people to a place where it's not just kind of scrolling through the internet. You can actually set them up in virtual reality or AR, any kind of immersive technology, and they can go see it and experience it for themselves. And I think the shift happens in XR when XR is judged by outcomes. So it saves a lot of time, especially in simulations. There's a lot of industries. That's what I really like about XR and immersive tech, because somebody, like, I'm such a hands-on learner. So for me, repetition and being able to do something over and over is how I learn best. So I think a good example of where XR is really a powerful technology is through repetition. For example, like heart surgeries and even simple trades like plumbing and stuff like that. You can practice this skill over and over, and there's a lot of time saved, and the margin for, I guess, damage that could be done in the real world isn't so, the risk isn't as the stakes aren't as high. So it's okay to fail, and it's okay to be able to do it over and over again until you feel comfortable that you've mastered that skill. So I think that saves a lot of time. The error is reduced. It's also a good way to measure outcomes and success in VR.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's really important. Thank you so much for that, Lauren. Great perspective. For our next question, I would like to turn to Athena Demos, who is the co-founder and CEO of Big Rock Creative. And also she is the Burner Sphere. She's created the Burner Sphere. And she was the recipient of the 2023 XR Women Trailblazer Award. And so this question for you, Athena, is which leadership decisions by women will most influence the long-term ecosystem?
Wow, that's a tough question. First, I just want to let you know, if you hear background noise, I am in Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum. And I found this beautiful place with trees in the background and snow and mountains. And then the temperature dropped to sub-zero and everybody rushed into warm places. And so that's where I am, and everyone's in here and it's loud. So if you hear background noise, I apologize. So one leadership decision is that we all need to have a warm place to be. And I don't mean just warmth physically, but when we talk about metaverse worlds, XR ecosystems, it's the warmth of coming together, of having a sense of belonging, of being included. You know, we set the stage for what the community is coming into. Are they going to feel welcome? Are they going to feel like they have a voice and they can be heard? And so it is up to us to build that in to whatever we create. And Burner Sphere is an excellent example of this, where we're utilizing the 10 principles of Burning Man to give people a warm, welcoming place to go where they can radically express themselves and participate in a communal effort and feel like they're part of a whole, that sense of belonging. And that's really what I think is the most powerful long-term influence that is going to happen on the overall XR ecosystem.
That's great. Thank you for that, Athena. And I know about the efforts that you have been making to lay down those philosophical principles and guiding principles for community and how we are as groups of people together in the metaverse. So thank you for your leadership on that.
You're welcome.
Yes. For our next question, I would like to turn to Diana and Jerry. Diana is the Associate Director of the Africa VR Campus and Center, the Director of XR Girls Africa, and the recipient of the 2025 XR Women Real World Impact Award. So Diana, it's so lovely to have you joining us here tonight. So the question for you is, what will transform XR access and participation for women around the world?
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
That's a good question, Karen. And although I'm having troubles hearing you again, can you repeat the question again, please?
Yes. What will transform XR access and participation for women around the world? It's if you couldn't hear me very well, it's on the screen. Okay, I'm sorry, Diana is not able to hear us. Okay, we can come back to that question for Diana. I'm sorry that she's unable to hear us. So for this next question, with which responsibilities accompany women guiding XR ecosystems toward inclusion and innovation? What are our responsibilities there? And that question I would like to direct to Charlene Nichols, who is the founder and CEO of Omniverse City. She's a metaverse pioneer and optical industry innovator, among many other things. So Charlene, please share us your thought about these responsibilities that we have.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Christopher, for a third successful year. I appreciate you, Christopher, for making such a great space for all of us. Thank you for this question, Karen. When I think about responsibility, the word of 2026 word of the year for me, there's many, but there's one above all, and that's accountability. And I think as women, as mothers, as leaders, as teachers, as wives, as, pillars of our community, we've already assumed that role. It's like a part of our DNA to be accountable not only for ourselves but for everyone around us. For many of the great women on this panel, and many women I've met in general, they just seem to always have more. They seem to always have more space, more time, more passion, more patience, more energy. Women have just resigned themselves to the capability of always being able to create more. When you're at the end of the rope and you feel like there just couldn't possibly be any more, it is our God-given superpower as women. Maybe it's because we birth most of the people that you see around us and bring them into the world to begin with, to be able to create more. And I think as women, that is our responsibility. But to make sure that when you're creating more, make sure it's something good. Okay. And make sure that if you're creating more, for example, behind me, you see Raw City. It's a game in Fortnite. It's a different attitude than what Omniverse City has had. We're all about an Omniverse City kindness and solving real world problems and working with celebrities that are looking to take back their ownership of their IP, their actual IP themselves, by giving them AI that could speak for them so that people can't hurt them anymore. These are the things that we're doing. And I think because women are capable of doing more than any other human or creature on the planet, it is our responsibility to understand what that expansion is going to do. What is it going to create? Good, bad, and indifferent. You've got to always think ahead. We're always racing to create more and more and more, but you've got to make sure that there's the resources and the infrastructure to support that. That was the foundational principle that Omniverse City was built upon. We always knew that we would create more. And we knew in the beginning, we had a lot of liberties that we could take because there was a lot of space to build. It was hard to break things in the beginning because there was so much room to build. But we're at a point right now. It's been 2 or 3 years since the pandemic, which is when a lot of these platforms started really emerging. We emerged 3 years pre-pandemic. And truthfully, my first metaverse was the optical industry, because metaverse is so much more than just the technology. It's the people, it's the problems, it's the solutions, it's the way we work together. It's so much more than the technology. Technology is just a tool. It is up. I always say you can tell so much about a person by what they build, by the technology they build. Hold yourself accountable. Thank you so much. I'll pass it back over to you. Sorry about that. I went off a little bit on a tangent.
No. Those were wise words and really great. And I love what you said about building those that infrastructure, and that is part of our responsibility as women to build that infrastructure so that we can help others succeed. As Julie was saying, to empower them to expand so that we can all expand together to empower one another. And I think that's a really important point. Thank you so much for making that. Now, for our next question, I don't see Juliana Lowe here on the screen, but I know that she is present. So I'm going to move on, and there is Juliana Lowe. Okay, wonderful. Juliana Lowe, an immersive artist and designer extraordinaire, and she was one of the first people who started coming to our XR Women events and participating in them. And we've seen her create incredible spatial narratives over the years. And there's much more to say about Juliana, but I would like to turn to this question for her. Which structural barriers inhibit women's leadership and innovation in XR?
Thanks, Karen, for that nice introduction, and thanks, Christopher, for having me. I'm surrounded by really good friends, and it's brilliant women. So what structural barriers? Structural barriers, I think that there's a couple of them. I think there needs to be one, we need more money, right? So that's funding is really important, especially for people who are working in the pioneering space. So funding either by corporations or by government, that's something that's really required as we move on in our attitude and understanding of innovation. I'm hoping that as AI, well, the promise of AI is that we'll have more time and we'll have more resources to build things. But, maybe more of that funding and can be allocated toward education as well, too. You know what I mean? It kind of goes hand in hand. And we learned a little bit about that because we are in serious need of critical thinking. So it's not just about women who need to learn critical thinking, it's men too. And I'm noticing this more and more, especially as we move into the AI age. There's a real value in understanding one's worth. And yes, I agree, women do more, but I think women should expect more as well too. So that's at every layer. Oh, and I think it's not just women, but I think as we move into that XR space, we really need to have a sense of to embrace interoperability. So that's being able to move from place to place, different particular XR areas from AR to VR to without having that kind of friction that sort of prevented people from embracing this in the entire industry. We need to, as women from I represent a diverse group, we need to be able to, yes, hold ourselves accountable, but also be open to the different stories that have evolved, and not just to look at the hero's journey as, the personification of stories, but to look at cultural relevance and stories that can be told from different points of view. I think that's kind of really important in not only embracing the Western culture, but looking at other cultures as well too. And I got one last point. We need to put safety and privacy first. So in terms of like AI, are we speaking to you, Karen? Is that really you, Karen? Is that really you, Tricia? We don't know, right? And so that comes up. So having an understanding of the AI culture, the ethics of it, how do you use it well? I think that's kind of really important. And last of all, speaking to Athena's point, we really do need safe spaces and warm spaces and areas where we can laugh and grow, because without the sense of awe and wonder and play, it's really, really hard to get into the things that we're often asked. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, brilliant, Juliana. Yes, and women do need more. We do deserve more. We give more. We want more. So I will come back to the previous question that was planned for Diana, but now I'd like to turn to Tricia Blake. Tricia, it is such a thrill to see you here today. I'm very happy to have you here. She is the Director of Communications for XR Women, and she is the CEO of My Third Bloom, a midlife and menopause advocate, and just a wonderful human being. And I'm so delighted to have you here today, Tricia. So can you tell us what you think about which inclusion principles should be embedded at the design stage for women in XR?
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Can you hear me okay? All right. Excellent. Excellent. So happy to be here with all these amazing XR women. I'm so excited. So I think the first thing, I go back to a conversation I had with Sophia, I think when I probably first met her in person at when we were in Brooklyn a couple years ago. And I was joking, but I was also very serious about when thinking about the metaverse as an example, you can't have the metaverse without me. And so, just trying to spell it out, me, you cannot have the metaverse without me. And if everybody came with that lens, inclusion really has to be designed from the outset rather than retrofitted. I think, after the fact, what are our, just even thinking about like what our defaults. So when I think of some principles off the top, Juliana was talking about, and even Julie in the keynote, just safety. How do we, just in terms of that being included, safety and even moderation built in from the start, privacy and consent, as defaults, not after something has happened. We're thinking about that. Representation beyond just the visuals, like we come with our own lens, and how do we look outside of that? Who's excluded? Who is not there? Who is not represented? When we think of just even embodiment, like how all of our avatars look the same, look the same in terms of body. And what if I have hips? I want my avatar to have some hips, I want my avatar to be, a little fluffy, let's say. But just thinking about voice, movement, embodiment, accessibility across languages. Even thinking about bandwidth, inclusion principles as it relates to even economic pathways. We don't really build for that. We're not necessarily thinking about that, up front. How does that support earning? How does that support ownership? How long-term, even just thinking about long-term contribution, early inclusion strengthens, our resilience and scalability. But we really have to think about that from the beginning. And I think we as XR women, as women, that's what we can bring. Like, we're thinking about these things after the fact. I saw over the weekend, I can't remember, Don Stevenson III, I think that's his name. He was talking about the meta glasses as an example. And when you're recording, to be able to blur out people and then perhaps give consent there, that's an afterthought, right? Like from the developers. What if, in terms of like just the inclusion and how we're thinking about things, start that from the beginning, from the start, really being thoughtful.
Excellent, profound thoughts there, Tricia. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I would like to now go back to the question that I had for Diana. Diana is, again, the Associate Director of the Africa VR Campus and Center, the Director of XR Girls Africa, and the winner of the 2025 XR Women Real World Impact Award. Diana, can you please share with us your thoughts on which leadership, oh, no, this is the wrong one. What will transform XR access and participation for women around the world?
Yeah, thank you so much, Karen. I think one of the, first let me answer the question that you asked about responsibilities. As a person who loves to onboard young women in the metaverse, it's not just about teaching them, how to navigate through the metaverse, or how to wear a headset, or how to use these emerging technologies. We have come to realize what we are doing is breaking barriers. Because when we are going to teach young people, especially in rural Africa, how to use technology, as yesterday's speaker said, women in rural areas have been fed that they cannot, choose technology as their career path. So it has become our number one role and responsibility to first change the narrative and erase the misconceptions that women cannot learn technology, young girls cannot choose technology as their career path, and onboard them, teach them, give them skills, elevate them from not just being users to, being creators and builders, being business women in the metaverse. One of the skills that we taught our young girls here in Kenya is the skill of photogrammetry. I remember even saying that word was really hard for them. Sometimes we could call it photogeometry. Sometimes we could call it photogeography. You know, even writing it was so hard. But because they believed in themselves and they knew that this is the path that we should take, every morning when they come to the campus, they looked around to see which unique object can we scan and show people around the metaverse, right? And earn something from that. Because most of the time when you tell people, come to the metaverse, they will ask you, can I earn anything from it? That is one of the most questions that we face when you are talking about metaverse to young people. They want something that they can earn from. And so how do we bring them into this ecosystem? As women leaders, we should create, spaces that are safe for them, that will make them free to explore around and learn and meet new people and learn new skills. So I think that is one of the major responsibility that I feel as a woman leader.
That's great. Thank you so much, Diana. And some of what Tricia had said before about bandwidth and making sure that we have access but providing those skills that will help to facilitate access for women around the world. What you're doing is really amazing. So thank you so much for that. Now I would like to turn to, and I will go through my slides here and hope I get to the right one. Okay, this is for Paige Danziger, who is the director of the XR Women Museum, the founding director of the Better World Museum. And I could say a lot of things about her, but I will also note that she is the recipient of the XR Women Real World Impact Award in 2023. Paige, it's wonderful to have you here today. Can you talk to us about trust building mechanisms and which ones most effectively establish credibility in spatial environments?
Thank you for this question, Karen. I can't help but lean throughout this incredible community right here of wise words, from starting from diversity to creating safety and belonging to fostering listening and different pathways. So first, thank you to all of the women here on this panel for this. This is trust building. It starts with gathering, listening, creating space, and I keep going back to listening as being sort of a fulcrum of trust building. When we create worlds I'd like to say that I'm obsessed with the idea of creating worlds that we deserve and working as a community with each other by facilitating an by for all infrastructure of community care creation. Coming to you from Minneapolis today, I think about how we create these care structures throughout our community, and XR can be an incredible building network matrix for that community of care. And it really comes from listening and being present with each person and making sure that their voices are amplified within communities and structures that traditionally inhabit and enforce constraints. Using our imagination and being able to create space for our diverse imaginations as a collective, I believe creates a more holistic building mechanism for establishing credibility in spatial environments. So using an by for all and listening and diversity at its core would be my 3 points throughout building that trust.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that, Paige. The next question, and again, I'm so grateful to GatherVerse for providing these questions and these slides. This question is one that I'm going to skip over, actually, because I want to come back to it. And I think we've touched on this in a lot of different ways. And because we're coming here, we're representing XR women in a way here that that question is relevant to our presence. But I would like to turn to Katie Kavanaugh. And Katie helps educators harness the 5 powers of international films to cultivate globally competent, collaborative learners who hold the doors open for others. And Katie, maybe you can say a little bit more about yourself, but tell us a little bit about what you think with regard to the education gaps that require attention to elevate women in XR leadership.
Yes, thank you, Karen, and thank you for your contact earlier too. I really appreciate your moderation and your expertise in this field. In education, I just did a quick chat with Claude to find out what Claude thought the problem was, Claude AI. And he spoke to early confidence erosion in math and computing in girls and women. So starting out in the middle school and high school area, which is where Screen 360 TV starts. We present short international films to classrooms that are brought together over time in geographical borders so that they can have a travel-like experience and experience what it is like to go abroad, to collaborate across diversity, because a conversation is the first step to collaboration. And so that they have that experience leading to innovation, which is across greater diversity to arrive at the most radical innovation. So we want to develop that mindset much earlier on in education, in middle school, particularly for girls who are having a burst of creativity and recognition of themselves at around 10 and 11 years old. And so they need to recognize their power at that point, and their power to visualize, especially. And so those stereotypes of childhood, when we direct girls towards the more typical caregiving fields, which we are still very good at, and which incidentally, healthcare and education is where we are and have reached parity, where there are more women in leadership roles, like 52% in education and 58% in healthcare. So that's pretty good. And so I think these are the areas where we continue to be strong and also apply more innovations like GatherVerses and VR, AR, but also to expand in the STEM areas and ensure that we are turning those stereotypes on their heads. I mentioned to Karen that I knew of an artist she's a UK artist, and I'm sorry I can't remember her name. I did a quick search for her. But I met her in Berlin, and what she does is bring adults to workshop for 3 weeks, and they change genders to experience the other gender's role. Now, if we could do that in encapsulated measures for girls and boys, and I'm sure there's some very edge-cutting educators out there now who do that, but to give that grasp of creativity from the other side through simple role changing, especially in this day and age when the physiological, well, let me change that, where we are recognizing the actual physiology of our genetics and we are living them and allowing them to be expressed. That radical experience, and it need not be through VR, it could be through VR because that allows a more personal experience. It's just a note about that. With Screen 360, we don't use goggles because the looking to the right or left in the cinema, for instance, and watching the person beside you respond is really essential for creating empathetic connection. So we're a goggles off platform. And so back to the experimental gender bending, children already do that. Allow them to do that. I recall a wonderful Danish film where a boy discussed what was different with his education and the person who was visiting from another school. It was an exchange between types of schools. And the boy said, if I want to be an elf in the garden, then I'm an elf in the garden. And I should be able to live that experience until I don't anymore. And we know that children do sometimes want to be a boy or want to be a girl. Allow them to have that experience and continue to listen to their experience and their discussion about their world. And that's where a lot of creativity is going to come from, both for them and for us who are listening. Karen, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you for letting me go there.
No, thank you. Thank you so much, Katie. I want to now, we've now all had a chance to answer a specific question. Everyone's been in the spotlight for a moment. And but we have a few other questions left. And I think some of you might have some burning responses to some of the other questions that weren't directed at you specifically. But let's see if anyone would like to jump in and talk about the investment decisions and which ones amplify equitable access to immersive technologies. And I love what Charlene said about, women need more. We need more. We deserve more, and give us more. So yes, who would like to jump in and respond to this question? Charlene, it looks like
I'm itching in my seat, and I'll tell you why. And I'll be very short and sweet with this. Okay. When I started, first of all, I left a very successful career, 20 years, and I invested in a company that ended up being multiple, let's say $20-30 million is what they sold at. I invested 20 years of my life, even though I was an employee, in that company's success. When I left, I took everything, my return on investment, which is everything that I learned. And I took that and invested it in me. So I got an ROI from my job after 20 years, and I invested it in me. That was an investment decision. It was a risk. That's what investment is. It's a risk. Here I am now 8 years later. My biggest competitor is worth 20-something billion dollars. They just renamed themselves to Napster, okay? And they have lots of billions of dollars that people have invested in them. All along, I'm still here. I'm still my only investor. But if I was a good investor, I would say, what is my comp? What would I compare myself to? My only comp is worth multiple billions of dollars. Now, had I gone out to other investors and said, what do you think I'm worth? They might have said much less than multiple billions of dollars. But now we'll never know, because I never gave anyone that opportunity, because I believe that my company is far too valuable for anyone to invest in unless they're heading in the same direction that I am. Mm-hmm. So I think this decision, I would pose more to the women that are out there that we all know are not being looked at fairly. It's just, it is what it is. I didn't make the problem. I'm just identifying it. And for a lot of us, we never find that pathway. I'm very fortunate that God gave me the resources and the courage and the conviction and the belief in myself to be here so that I can say that was a very good investment. So, period, invest in yourself. Over to you, Karen.
That's great. And also invest where it aligns with your values. Yes. Does anyone else want to comment on that? Or are there other topics that you want to jump in and respond to based on the conversation that has gone on so far? We have 5 minutes left.
It's Katie down here. I'd like
Hi,
to
Katie.
weigh in on that. Collaborate across borders. In fact, I'm fortunate to have met a potential collaborator here at GatherVerse, and I thank GatherVerse for that. And we are collaborating across borders because when you do that, set up a company in another country, then you can gain funding from that country. And when you do have a platform or a business that is international, you're going to need to do that. But when you do that, you have knowledges colliding and creating new knowledge. So reach out to like-minded women and collaborate. Create a business in another country. You will be a minority in that country, potentially, but that's fine. Create your expectations, understand each other, and let that flourish. It's essential, both for communication and for innovation and for getting around the corrupt structures that are present in the world today.
The structural barriers. Yes. That's thank you for that, Katie. And I think that XR Women, one of the things that we really want to do is to foster that collaboration, be a place where we can meet potential partners and find out what is going on and how we might work together. So I switched to this slide about which signals indicate healthy, inclusive community formation led by women. But I see that Paige has unmuted herself. Perhaps she has something she wants to say on another point.
Well, thank you, Karen. Actually, this question, what signals indicate healthy, inclusive community formation led by women, I believe is one where we are investing in each other and creating systems of amplifying each other's voices. So, and that also, we talked, one of us talked about financial economies within that as well. And so sustainable circular economies that amplify women, LGBTQ plus diverse, indigenous, disabled voices and youth as leaders today, not of the future. So really creating and fostering these nourishing communities of care.
That's great. Thank you, Paige. We're getting short on time, but Athena, and then Diana.
So one thing that has been brought up a lot this year for the World Economic Forum at the sessions that I've gone to is that the most valuable thing is time. The most valuable thing is your time. You have a finite amount of it. You're born, you live your life, and you die, and that's all the time you get. And you don't actually know how much time that is. And that is the most valuable. And so you have to spend that time. We talk about time like a commodity. You have to spend that time doing the things that bring the greatest value to your overall community, to humanity, to society, and that will give you the greatest ROI. So it's all about how you look at your time, how you use your time, who you gift your time to, and where you value your time.
Wow. I would love to have the opportunity to take a little time to sit with that, Athena, because it's very powerful. But we are running short on time. And I saw that Diana had something that she wanted to say. Please,
Yeah.
Diana, go ahead.
So when you are talking about a healthy community, especially in the metaverse, we look at active representation. We bring in let's bring in women from diverse communities and groups, just as Paige said, and let them not just include them. Let's not just include them. Let's give them positions to lead, to be decision makers, to make policies. And with that, I think we will make, XR empowered, not just to deepen the gap of inequality.
Thank you. Thank you for
Well,
that.
and
Yes.
my last thought, Karen, is let's not forget a lot of us are mothers, and if we're not mothers, we're aunts or we're parts
Yeah.
of community. We didn't talk about it a lot on this call, but it's something I'm very passionate about as a mother. It's what keeps me like focused. Is we're raising the future. Like we're influencing the future. I love what you're doing, Diana, but there's so many great people out there. Support these programs like Diana's, like these STEM programs. They really need that funding. And a lot of them are focusing on young women. We've got to really focus on the kids above
Yes.
all else.
Yes. Thank you, Charlene. I see Juliana is eager to
Well,
say.
it's a really quick one. I was going to say that in this time and place in which we're living in, I think it's really important to keep empathy at the top of the food chain, because without empathy, everything crashes around you, and we're seeing that happening in our society. And I think it's really important to embrace that and to find ways in which we can still express that in however way that we can, because at the end of the day, empathy is, again, in relation to everything, is as or more important. Thank you.
Way of connecting us. Yes. So we're supposed to be closing out, but I just want to give Trisha and Lauren a chance to, if there's anything else they would like to close out with.
Just from the just to go back to the barriers, the structural barriers, like I love the piece on creativity, and to what Paige had talked about, just educating on business models. We need to, come together and have an understanding of what that is. IP ownership, your intellectual property, that's a structural barrier. Understanding governance, licensing, the whole portability. Like what happens when things do shut down? How do we create awareness around that and build that education? That is how we elevate women, further in XR leadership. If we have an understanding of what that is, create your own, even build your own studio, build your own collective, just like a lot of us are already doing. I just wanted to add that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And Lauren, you started us out. Let's hear again from the rising generation. Close us out here, please. 30 seconds.
Thank you. I just want to say, as far as invest in technology that makes your life easier and better, even if that's like a ChatGPT subscription, it's well worth it, or just technology like these Meta Ray-Ban glasses that integrate seamlessly into your world. Yeah, so invest in yourself. And I just have really enjoyed being on this panel. It's great to see all my friends and familiar faces on the panel. And yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks so very much to you all. And thank you again to GatherVerse. Our gather was well. So let's move on to the next panel. Thank you.
Hello and greetings. Welcome to the second Fireside Chat, GatherVerse Summit Day 2. And with me, I am very privileged to have the one and only Layla, and we will be talking about women guiding the next era of spatial computing. Layla, we're very thankful to have you here, and I would like you to introduce yourself and tell us what inspired you to be here with us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for including me. I'm honored to be here. I will say I apologize. I woke up with a cold this morning, so there might be some stuffiness. My energy levels are lower than usual, but I'll do my best to stay bouncy, so to speak. My name is Layla Amir Sadeghi. I have been working in technology since the late 90s, so in the digital space. Very, very fortunate to have worked for companies or with companies or do my own thing where we've done first to markets in a lot of different ways. My first interactive, immersive, experiential experience was for Adobe in 2007. In 2008, I did my first AR project with Mattel. This was, the technology was way not there. But I fell in love with the promise of what it could offer. I've worked across video games and entertainment and launched a location-based entertainment company of my own in partnership with a few people back in 2018, I want to say, in San Francisco. It's called One Dome, launching the first mass mixed reality consumer experience called the Unreal Garden. And if we get a chance, we'll talk a little bit about that because some of that plays into this. We were very early to market, learned a lot. I'm not sure that I would do another startup again, but it was an incredible experience and brought me into the XR and spatial space in a thought leadership capacity. And then have since the last 5 years worked for Microsoft, started in Altspace VR as a product manager, Microsoft Mesh, and then the last couple of years working in an innovation engineering team, accelerating AI, robotics, vision, working with customers on doing things that have not been done before that really help create efficiencies in their business. It's a bit of a longer introduction, but that's probably gives the context of my background.
Yes, it does. And I really wish you a quick recovery. Please drink you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm sure it's just the cold. It's just energetically annoying.
And Layla, I'm listening to you, and all I can hear is a wealth of experience. And it's something that the audience that is looking up to you right now, they're asking, what is the impact of women like you, and many others who are watching, building and accessing immersive technologies that connect people across physical and digital worlds?
Yeah. Well, I think that you just used one of the words that I would use is connection, right? The connection is really key to that. I think in order, the three words I like to think of as connection, collaboration, community. In order to collaborate or bring people together to do things together, you really need to create that connection. Connection comes with eye contact or the other forms, whether it's shared experience or, similar. And then that leads to community. I think as women, we also approach the products a little differently. We don't just think about sort of what's on the screen, but also bringing in things like safety and privacy, accessibility, comfort, identity. I think it's sort of natural to think in that way. And I've always said that immersive technologies, immersion, full stop, it doesn't have to be necessarily a digital technology to be immersed in something, is a very visceral experience. It's a very powerful experience. It can create empathy and create shifts in people akin to plant medicine. And that I think it's that powerful. And so I think, with as women, we tend to, we know that, we leverage it and really bring the kind of content, even if it's even if it's entertaining and storytelling driven, the kind of content that really matters. So couching sugar-coated vegetables, use reality as fantasy as opposed to creating fantasy as escape.
Yes, and just a quick follow-up to that. When you talk about immersion, and you have mentioned, it's more of the contact than having a physical gadget or something. How does that intersect with AI, with the current evolution with AI merging with spatial computing? How do you see that play out? And what do you see the role of women? Are you seeing a lot of women getting into that field? What is your experience so far?
Yeah, so I would say it's interesting. I'd say that the progress and where we're seeing adoption the greatest over the last couple of years, and especially in the last probably 12 to 18 months, I'd say, is on the enterprise side. Yes. Think of smart factories. That is actually, manufacturing is a great example of where immersion is playing out. Operator training, for example, take a machine, troubleshooting. There is a aging out demographic in a lot of these fields, construction, manufacturing, and other. There are a lot of subject matter expertise that is being lost in play, and so being able to empower anyone to be able to troubleshoot and even potentially add their own learnings into something, whether it's using a combination of voice input, AI, natural language, voice input, output, to adding a spatial, whether it's glasses, creating contextual awareness in real time. You're providing information as it's needed. It's also able to leverage ML and models to learn, to look historically, pattern analysis, be proactive and predictive. Seeing a lot more women in the space. It's really, really comforting to see in these large corporations and enterprises being part of driving this sort of new way of being, and also in thinking through how the experience is delivered. That's really important. It can't just be called, okay, we're going to add these devices and leverage AI in certain ways, and then that's it. It has to be very natural. It has to sort of make me feel comfortable enough to engage with it without having to think about how to engage with it, so to speak. But a lot of the enterprise success or learnings is coming from learnings from the consumer space over the last few years. Spatial is really quickly becoming the default interface pattern. So what the design principles that make for a great immersive story also make for a great smart factory digital twin experience as well.
Yes, and I feel the same way when it comes to usability and design. It has to be something that is very comfortable. And I think we were having that conversation yesterday. But let me just dive a little bit deeper into spatial computing. How can spatial computing transition from a specialized capability into an everyday human experience? How do you make it available for everyone?
Oof, yeah. We're not there yet. I mean, I think two things before even just thinking about the tactical is trust and social acceptance. I mean, trust is going to be, and if we think of spatial, if we think of wearables as part of that, so even if it's almost invisible, take it to a contact lens scenario, or whether it's just glasses, or you're being recorded. I mean, there is an aspect where, in order for it to be working, there's a recording happening in real time. It is capturing content to be able to then contextualize and provide you content. And so there has to be a lot of governance and trust in this for it to become widely adopted. But it's got to be frictionless. It's got to be comfortable. It's got to be almost invisible. I don't think there is an app that makes it, right? I believe that, the world becomes your experience. I do think that in that way, ubiquity happens if it's natural input, contextually aware. It has to just be, it can't feel like something in addition to how I live my life. It has to feel a part of my life. That's at least my opinion.
Yes, it has to feel like it's part of our lives. And just I'm a little bit curious on that. Do you think we're far from that reality? Is it something that can happen? Please tell me your prediction.
I mean, I think it's happening in certain contexts. Is it something that's going to be ubiquitous in our daily lives. You walk down, the streets of London, for example, and you see everybody in. I don't think the devices are there yet. I do think that, pushing the compute to the phone and keeping that in your pocket and then having something that allows for, I think that's, we're getting closer. I think CES showed a lot more wearables. Again, I think you have to, it's can't be novelty, right? There has to be utility to it, whether for whoever the audience is. Yes. And so I think, are we close? It's hard to say, because we've been talking about this conversation in different forms for 5, 6, 7 years. Every year we're like, it's this year. I think spatial computing has finally reached a place that's about, is it going to be everyday use for everyday people? I don't know. 2026 is that year, but yes. We'll see.
We will see. Thank you for beautifully letting us know. We've had decades of experience in a massive world, and which lessons from those decades translate into guidance for women entering spatial computing today? Young women are watching you, and so much people are looking up to you. What is that guide that you would tell them for close off?
I would say, first of all, don't fear the idea. If the idea feels too big, don't run from it. But definitely take bite-sized chunks. Don't confuse novelty with value. Got to create experiences or content or or contextualized delivery in a way that makes somebody come back or want to continue using it or continue coming back to the experience. And it's not just a Saturday night thing, for example. So I think definitely considering the novelty aspect will wear thin very quickly. And I'd probably say it's really important to think about multidisciplinary teams, right? It's not just engineers, it's creators, it's filmmakers, it's, the ethics side of it, it's the safety side of it. I think you need to bring in experts at the right moments, but there needs to be cross-discipline in order to really encapsulate or ensure that you are approaching it holistically and thinking of all the elements that need to be integrated from the start.
Yes, beautiful. So from what I'm getting from you, it also takes a lot of patience for young women and people who are looking at you. And just to finalize this fireside chat, where do you see the next major breakthrough for spatial computing and multisensory storytelling?
Yeah. So I don't, we tried this in 2018. I think embodied AI is going to do a lot. So the ability to, I think embodied AI is going to change the game. The ability to be in an experience and to actually define my own experience in real time, shift and change the story or my environment in real time. I think that's really important. One thing we did with the Emerald Garden, which I don't think we have time for a video, but it was, there were layers of immersion. So there was the physical, there were projections that were passive, there were projections that were interactive. We had a HoloLens that had AR content, and the interaction would be between the HoloLens and projections, and you could create magic around you. And we did, and do ambisonic sound, spatial sound in situ of content, as well as eventually adding haptics. And so I do think, I do believe that multisensory is going to be critical, especially, again, it's like, how do we live our day to day? Take out an immersive experience. You feel, you touch, you see. And these are the things that this is where I think the power comes in, because, you can take reality, like I said, and create fantasy, Trojan horse, the message, without preaching to people. It could be a very fun story, but you're talking about the climate, or you're talking about this or that, the other. And so I think, you know, think of it that way. You know, design to how we live our lives today.
Awesome. Layla, you were very kind with your insights and your time, and would love to have you back. But as for now, I'll just say thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing what you've experienced throughout your career. And it's a very good gather for us when it comes to this
Yeah,
passage.
it's a great gather. Thank you for setting this up, and thank you for you know, having these kind of events. I think it's so important for women to feel comfortable and not avoiding technology and technology fields. And I think, you know, we bring a special power and magic and knowledge that can truly create lasting experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank
Lynn.
you.
It's nice.
That's a wrap. Over to you, GatherVerse team. Thank you.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Messina Morris, and today we are about to step into a moment that matters. I have the honor of moderating Leaders Advancing Humanity's Progress today at the She Superhero Engine Summit 2026. This conversation will be centered on what it truly means to lead with humanity at the core. Today, I will bring together women who do not separate innovation from ethics, strategy from care, or progress from responsibility. These are leaders shaping the future with intention, courage, and a deep commitment to people. Again, I am an educator, technologist, futurist, and biomolecular chemist, also known as Dr. Molder of Minds or Dr. Mom. I am a wife and mother of 5 sons, including a son with autism. I'm the director of Metaverse programs and professor of practice at Morehouse College and founder of Metaverse United. It is my honor to guide this dialogue. Now let's advance humanity on purpose. Welcome to the stage, all of these beautiful women. Thank you so much for joining today. It is such a pleasure to see all of your beautiful faces. Let's get down to business and talk about how we as leaders are advancing humanity's progress. But before we do that, let's please start with Dr. Tammy Francis and quick introduction. Let us know who you are.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Tammy. I help you move in the direction of more and prepare for what's next. And I do that in education and in my business. So I look forward to sharing more about that on the panel. Thank you, Dr. Morris.
Thank you, Tammy. Dr. Tammy Francis. Okay, let me have Marion Villa.
Hello everyone, I'm Marian Villa and work as Developer Relations at the Interledger Foundation. I focus on building and supporting global community around open, inclusive financial technology. And my work is an intersection between technology, community, and human-centered impact. So that lens strongly shapes how I think about leadership, about innovation and progress. So I'm honored to be part of this panel.
Next, we have Jen Lastra.
Hi, everybody. I am part of a virtual reality safety training company. So we're using VR to save lives for high-risk industries like construction, warehouse manufacturing, giving frontline workers a new perspective on what physical and personal safety actually looks like, sounds like, and feels like. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, Jen. And thank you, Marion, too, for your wonderful introduction. I look forward to hearing from you. Let's go to Mary.
Hi, everyone. I am excited to be here today, and I am Mary Waweru, the founder of AI Literacy Hub, and I sit at the intersection of people, processes, and technology, and I am excited to be here today for this summit. Thank you.
Next, we have Thalia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zulia. I lead marketing at GoTo, a workforce marketplace in dental and healthcare. My work involves labor, technology, and human outcomes. At GoTo, we publish a state of work survey, comprehensive workforce survey, which is our way of looking at data and lived experiences together to understand how volatility actually shows up in people's lives. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
And finally, we have Sequoia.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited about this panel. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Alexor Spark. We're a consumer insights platform that allows brands to create deeper relationships with their customers. So our goal is to treat the customer with care. And so they're not a disposable entity to the brand. And I am super excited to talk about how we integrate AI into our ecosystem. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Sequoia and Thalia. Now we also have Jabet. She's just joined us. Please introduce yourself, Jabet. Oh, you're on mute, baby. Check your mic. Perfect.
So, hi guys, my name is Jabet Chepkoyo. I work as a program coordinator in Queen of Peace Initiative, which works with Indigenous women in Northern Kenya. I also work with other community organization in taking digital skills to the Indigenous youth in Northern Kenya.
Well, welcome, Jabet. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here with you, ladies. I'm just so excited because this is really a chance in a lifetime to be a part of something that is global. I thank our founder of GatherVerse, really pleased at how tightly community is and how we all are able to come together and present timely information in this particular day. Let's get started. In humanities do well and proud to say, and that speaks volumes to me. So, which visionary approaches allow women to accelerate societal impact across industries, in your opinion? And I'm going to start with Sequoia.
So, in my opinion, I believe women should authentically be women. I don't think we need to show up as anything different. That's who God put us here to be. And we have a different perspective. We have a different purview and a different lens. And so, for me in particular, the way I do that is I show up with care. I show up with compassion. I show up with empathy. I think about how we're leading from every perspective. I don't think it needs to be authoritative. I think it needs to be collaborative. And so for me, that's kind of how I navigate the world when it comes to showing up in authentic spaces as a woman and a leader.
I love that so much, especially when you talk about accelerating impact with lived empathy, and women do that very well. Next, could you chime in on that, Mary?
Yes, for sure. For me, my opinion, I think it's important for us to take the approach of community first approach. Whatever we are building, in whatever industry we are, in whatever aspects we are in, it is important for us to build thinking of the community first, thinking of the people that we are building like technology for, thinking about the women, starting from the real problems that women are facing or that our target audiences are facing, and not the other way around, starting from technology and then coming to figure out the problem, but starting from problems and people, then scaling higher. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. That really does bring a true approach of humanity and how women center themselves on trying to understand the people rather than just the problem. So, Jen, could you explain, since you work in safety especially, what visionary approaches that you see allow women to accelerate societal impact, especially in an industry where you're trying to keep the world safe?
Well, and in safety, I mean, the latest thing that they've had in safety to make training and education more impactful is like PowerPoint and Kahoots, which is like a quiz answering thing. So how do you bring real life situations that could cost someone their life? And how do you create simulations that are emotionally engaging, impactful, but don't create maybe even like a PTSD effect? And so again, it goes back to creating content that is memorable, engaging, appropriate. And so it goes back to being a content creator that's using really strong ethics and morals. As we know with VR, you can change people's belief systems. And so we need to be mindful and thoughtful of that. But I love the technology, especially for our youth, when it comes to creating those behavior-based thought processes through expert role modeling, so that we can help them on the front end before they actually step on a construction site or in a high-risk industry, so they're better prepared. So it's giving that experience, that storytelling is really, really impactful.
I love it. I love it. Marion and then Jabet.
So I think women accelerate impact when we operate as connectors. So linking technology with community, with life experience and innovation with real human needs. I think when you are thinking about the scaling products to a scaling access, for example, in fintech, education, or in the developer ecosystem, impact doesn't come from more features. It comes from lowering barriers to more people can actually participate and have a voice on what we are building.
Jabet? Your mic, Jabet. I know what you're saying is juicy, girl, because you were working it. Your mic again, sweetie. Jabet. Jabet, we can't hear you. Now, oh, one more time. Try it again. There you go. There you go.
Sorry. So I'm saying that to accelerate the impacts, first we need to ensure that it is equally distributed, and then we make sure that it is centered to the people that they are built for. In the community that we work with, we make sure that we establish first the trust with the people, and then establish the problem that those people have, so that whatever you build, you ensure that it is going to help the people directly. I think that is all that I have when it comes to that.
Awesome. Dr. Tammy?
So I really think that part of this approach that we need to have is really looking at what is the human need, and then what are the barriers that are keeping someone from advancing, from the impact that we are seeking to serve, and then implement strategy. I'm all about purpose, I'm all about strategy, and that's that. No matter where I'm in the classroom or in the boardroom, that's where I start. And I think that you have to implement some kind of strategy or tool, and if that's technology, it's technology, and then you have to action. A lot of things, we have these conversations and grand conversations around how can we move things forward, how can we accelerate societal impact, and it's talk, but we have to implement and then measure that impact. Like what is that measurement? Was it really effective? Did it really impact those that we were intending to serve? So I think part of this approach is really having this process, and I think of everything as a progression and and that framework or approach. So I think that we need to lead with purpose and not position.
Very interesting that you drove it back to data. A lot of times we are always in analysis mode as women anyway, intuitively, and looking at the real numbers. What is the truth? We always looking for the truth. Where is the truth and where does that lie? So that we can actually make real change. Thalia, do you want to round us off on this question about what visionary approaches women can use?
Yeah, of course. So, on that same thread of truth, I think a visionary approach that allows women to accelerate societal impact is also something that women tend to be very good at, which is naming the real problem, the root cause of the issue that our technology is trying to solve. I think that it is very easy to be a painkiller or treat the symptomatic ongoings of whatever problem that either your technology or solution is trying to combat. But with our audience at GoTo, our audience that is predominantly female was very good at naming the root cause and the systemic issues that was creating the staffing crisis. And so while a less empathetic or human-centric group of people may say, no, we just need more hygiene schools. We need more people. What we found is by listening to our audience and by our teams predominantly female, looking deep within, we realized that it was more of an issue about income satisfaction, about feeling valued, feeling respected, burnout. And that allows us to curate our technology and our programs to accelerate societal impact, but also get positive business outcomes at the same time.
I love that. I love that. We're going to move on because we have so much to cover. But I love what each of you all said. And what it all boils down to me is the ability for women to design solutions that scale, but also heal. And now we want to talk about those frameworks that help guide organizational strategy. So a lot of you talked about centering humanity at the beginning of our talk. You talked about that being some of the part of the visionary approach. How do you really prioritize people before products? And how do you prioritize purpose before profit? What kind of models can you lean into that could actually help to integrate ethical foresight, stakeholder dignity, and long-term societal return, and not just focus on short-term metrics? So what frameworks do you lean into, Sequoia, when you are dealing with trying to come up with a strategy that actually focuses towards humans?
That's a great question. So, our entire platform is built off of data, consumer insights. And so, when we look at brands who are engaging with their consumers, we're not looking at them as a price, like a purchase of products. We are literally looking at them as an even exchange in value. So, how do you not just say, hey, buy my products, but how do we also compensate the consumer? How do I incentivize them? How do I say, hey, here's an extra, 20% off because you gave us feedback to tell us if our product is functioning well in the market, or here's free shipping, what have you, right? And so I think you can't look at your consumer as a product themselves. You actually have to look at it as an even exchange in value. And that is how reciprocity happens. And so that's structurally how we make that happen within our organization.
I love the idea of you talking about the reciprocity. So many people have issues with privacy and all of those kind of things when it comes to emerging technology, especially now. So, Jen, how do you counteract that in the work that you do?
So our whole design process has the learner at the forefront of it. What are the types of things that a trainer can't easily explain? We recreate that for the learner so that it's something that they can experience. And so really, when we're looking at safety training, where are the common injuries and fatalities taking place, and then replicating those types of environments and situations and allowing them to practice through these things. So it's really about identifying what are the one or two golden nuggets that we need to help reinforce, and being very intentional about how we create that for the best learning outcomes, if you will. So it's all about designing around the learner themselves.
Thank you. So we have about 15 minutes left in this conversation, and we have a lot of questions. So I'm going to kind of speed run this and ask you all to give me your shortest, most concise answer for the next questions, because I really want to lean into these questions that we have that talk about barriers. So I'm going to skip ahead to which barriers persist to scaling women-led human impact globally, because we talked a lot about how women impact humanity, especially in these technological spaces. But what are the barriers that you see? Thalia, could you start there?
Yeah, of course. So to me, one big barrier is that human outcomes are still seen as secondary across industries until there's a crisis. So capital, procurement, policy, revenue often reward speed and efficiency over resilience or human-centric outcomes. So women-led initiatives can be harder to scale because they refuse to grow in ways that quietly transfer risk to other people. I think that that's a significant outcome that has to be intentionally confronted and deconstructed to solve. It requires a very nuanced approach, in my opinion.
That is very interesting, and I hope that is going to be changing with more women joining the workforce and collaborating together. Sequoia, chime in on that.
Sure. So when I think about barriers and what we go through as women, I feel like we have to kind of rise up to our male counterparts. And that's not necessarily the case. We need to just perform from the perspective of what we know as women and navigate in that way. And I think that's how we can navigate those barriers, because we just have a very different perspective and lens as to how to move through the world. And instead of saying, hey, let me be like this man, it's like, no, I'll be myself authentically, and that will make me the cream rises to the crop, right? Or the top. So that'll allow me to get to where I need to be. So that's what I would say in terms of navigating.
Do you think that there's a lot of fear between women who want to authentically be themselves, but they're up against
I
all
do. I absolutely think there's a lot of fear. And for me, I've had venture-backed tech companies. This is my second venture-backed tech company. And what I've learned is the second time around, just be you, because at the end of the day, they're going to accept you or they're not. And either way, the people who are supposed to be a part of your tribe and who are supposed to be a part of your organization will come to you anyway. So I just stop appeasing other people and just do what I need to do in order to be successful. And the people that gravitate to me just do.
That's a wonderful piece of advice. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sequoia. Jabet, please chime in on that.
So some of the barriers that we have encountered or have encountered as an individual is one, there is unequal access to capital to many of the organizations, especially in these sides of the world. And also there is limited representation in decision-making spaces, like even in our parliamentary spaces, even in the tech spaces, and the leadership, there's less women that are representing our needs. And also there is structural bias. That is very obvious. Even the people in the first world countries also experience that. And also we have restrictive social norms. I know that is not felt in every part of the world, or not as hard as it is felt in some of these places where the indigenous communities, where the social norms are taken very seriously. The second thing is that women often carry disappropriate unpaid labor. As we know that women are expected to do so much for so little. So you have to do the work that you are supposed to do, or that you are assigned to do as a woman. And then now you have to take some time to do innovative work or build your organization or your company, which takes a toll on women. The third thing is that the women-led initiative, they struggle so much in scaling because they're perceived as a local organization, or they are informal organization. People tend to see it as a very small thing, and it is very difficult for them to be given fundings, and also to raise funds on their own or in different spaces, because they are considered informal, or people assume that they don't know what they are doing. So in conclusion, the scaling requires that we make a transformation of the whole system, which is going to take some time, but we know that we will eventually be there.
That was very interesting and very insightful. You mentioned a lot, from social norms to the perspectives of women being seen as not as professional or not as adept as other men or their other counterparts. And those are real, true systemic barriers in many parts of the world, to be quite honest. So I applaud each and every one of you all for standing steadfast in your industries. Now, Marian, I want to know, which ethical innovation challenges actually require proactive women-led governance that you've seen in the work that you do?
Yes, I think in the work we do, we'll see like data ownership and consent. That's a key challenge. Other will be financial inclusion, um, taking women, not seeing them as weaker, but because they're operating ethically within a broken system. So trying to hack like the system and include them to make like products center in their needs. And also, if we are talking about AI systems, we need to be there to try to fight to don't reinforce existing bias, because there are bias in the world, and especially in AI. We need to work directly with the ethical AI. And I think when we look for women-led governance, this really matters, because if we prioritize them in a long-term human impact over a short-term optimization, we will feel included, and the systems are not going to reward speed and growth. They will reward sustainability and care. Also, supporting women for the unpaid or emotional labor that women leaders have.
That was really deep. That was you said a mouthful there. I don't even know that I can add anything. But Mary, if you could chime in, based on what you do as the founder of AI Literacy Hub, what ethical innovation challenges actually require you to be proactive?
Yeah, I agree with everything Marianne has said. But to add on that, when you talk about stuff like AI taking jobs, I believe that ethical innovations to ensure that women are at the forefront of upskilling themselves, learning all these digital skills, understanding the digital skills, being at the forefront so that they are not left behind. And also there's a lot of misuse, a lot of data privacy issues that arise with AI tools and all these tools that are coming up. So standing at the point of ethical innovation, ensuring that every tool that is created, every tool that we use, also ensuring that we are also giving feedback. When you use a tool and you feel like it's not ethical, there's one issue or two issues, two ethical issues not being misused, it is important for opening up the feedback loop so that even the creators of these tools can understand what we as users or we as consumers are feeling about the tool.
Now, that is a remarkable thought, especially when you talk about closing that feedback loop, because a lot of times people are really leery about the information that they put out and how that even them saying a signal, a thumbs up or thumbs down on a response from AI will affect the types of responses that they get or anything like that. So it's really good that you mentioned that. We're going to push forward because this is about leaders and leaders. And I want to talk about the leadership mindset that enhances resilience under these complex global pressures. And I want us to end here. We have 5 minutes left, and I want to get a response from everyone. But what is your number one leadership mindset that allows you to remain resilient? And I'll start first. Mine is focusing on family, to be honest. Talia.
For me, it's explaining trade offs, whether it's managing up or managing down, explaining the nuances of the choices that we make as leaders and what implications that has for our team, especially things that are a bit women centric, like team members with families or team members with children. Explaining to my CEO, hey, our new hire is going to be coming in at 9:30 so she can do school drop off, but she's incredibly talented and she's a worthwhile asset to this team. And so for me, I feel like just transparency and sponsorship while explaining those trade-offs is incredibly valuable in protecting resilience, especially for women.
Awesome. What about you, Jen? Could you tell me a leadership mindset?
Unconditionally me first. Got to take care of this first. My mental health is the most important thing in order to lead, and so I have to put myself first on the top of the to-dos at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day.
I love it. I love that so much. Close the loop on yourself. Okay, Dr. Tammy, your mic.
Purpose.
Yes.
Purpose is what you do and the impact you make. It's not this thing that's abstract and this thing out there that people don't understand. And I think it's doing what matters with intention, and it's being intentional.
I love it. I love it. Jabet, your mic, babe. You got it.
And I'm going to remember this. So what I'm saying is that for me, it is integrity, because people out there expect you to go there and give them credible information, and I have to have the highest form of integrity to tell them that this is this, and not be biased in any way. That is it. Thank you.
Mary?
Thank you for this. I agree with what everyone has said. And to add on two things. The first one is forging collaborations globally. Like all of us here are from different sides of the world. imagine what we could create if we collaborate. As long as we align in our values and we align in what we are doing, we could create so much value out of it. And number two is investing in ourselves. Let us continue investing in ourselves, whether it's upskilling, whether it's taking that career risk, whatever it is that matters to you, invest in yourself. Thank you.
Okay, one word from Marion and one word from Sequoia as we wrap today.
Yes, so I will add adaptive leadership. So accepting uncertainty as a permanent condition, not a temporary phase, and we need to not just be top, is being aligned. And I'm agree with all the other words.
And finally, Sequoia.
God, thank you.
Girl, you better, girl. Listen, and that's it, and that's all. We are leaders advancing humanity's progress. Get into it. Thank you so much, ladies. This was such a valuable gather. I enjoyed each and every one of you, and let us collaborate and continue to gather well. Thank you, GatherVerse, for this She Summit. Bye-bye.
No, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you now. Can you hear me? I can. I can't hear Dr. Nandasima right now.
Oh,
She's
I'm
still-
sorry. I'm sorry. I needed to unmute myself.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, and welcome everybody. Hello, Lillian, as well, and we're just waiting for Dr. Ngwenya to join us. But in the interim, I'm sure she'll be with us shortly as she's confirmed. I would like to welcome the panelists to this roundtable where we're talking about the future of medicine, but just not only the future of medicine as designed by women, which I think is an apt topic for this gather. The purpose of this conversation is not really about today's work, and I think it's important for me to frame as the moderator where the focus is going to be. Of course, visibility, inclusion, representation, those are all very important conversations that matter, and they matter today. But what we are going to focus on is understanding all of those issues. What could the future look like? So this is really an opportunity for us to imagine or even reimagine the design of medicine. And so this conversation, hopefully time permitting, we'll try and move across different aspects, which include values, careers, policy, technology, and leadership. I know all these women personally. I've interacted with all of you, so I know that we have quite a broad range of views, and so it's important to say that the purpose is not to gain consensus. It's just to name what is currently working or not working for us as women in medicine, and then imagine what could be built differently. So before we begin, I am going to take the opportunity to introduce the panelists that are here with us today. And I'm going to start with Dr. Maisha Claiborne, who's an integrative physician. She's a thought leader. She's also an NLP trainer who helps individuals and organizations to understand how trauma shapes the brain, behavior, and communication. She's also the founder of Mind Remapping Company, and she supports leaders and systems to become genuinely trauma-informed in how they relate, how they lead, and how they perform. The second panelist is Dr. Ali Eliobe, known as Dr. Ali Eri Emulo. She is a board-certified primary care physician, a speaker, an anti-bullying advocate who's based in Little Rock, Arkansas, in the United States. And her focus is on physician mental and emotional well-being. She is a strong advocate for the medical profession. She founded Physicians Keeper to promote respectful, psychologically safe cultures in medical education. And the final guest is Lillian Wehangana. Lillian is a medical student at the University of Zambia and an emerging leader in the youth and health advocacy. And of course, if we are talking about the future, we have to have the people who are going to be in the future. She's the founder of Youth Link Zambia, and she's also the Secretary of Health for the University of Zambia Medical Students Association. And her work spans mentoring, health education, gender empowerment through active volunteer roles, such as with Go Power Platform or with the YWCA. So welcome to the panelists. I'm sure we're going to have a very good conversation, given that we are also going to be looking at different points of the system, from training to practice, leadership, and innovation. But before we do that, I'd like us to maybe anchor our conversation in some principles. And so I guess the first question that we'd want to ask, and I wonder if I can move this forward. The first question that I would want to ask is really around values as an organization. So before we talk about solutions, before we talk about structures, if we were to take a step back and identify some principles. So maybe I'll start with Dr. Maisha. When you imagine a healthcare system that truly works for women, what are the values that you believe are non-negotiable that will be at its core?
Thank you. I think that when we look at the future as designed by women, we are looking at values like collaboration and community. We're looking, of course, at integrity, but like this concept of shared leadership and collaboration and community, I think, are strong things that we're sort of missing in today's world.
Absolutely. I think that's certainly the way that we live as women. Collaboration is, when we talk about a village, we're definitely collaboration and relational centered people. Lillian, I wonder if you have a view about that as well. What are the values as an early career or as a medical student from your vantage point that would sit in this redesigned medicine?
I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm glad to be here with everyone. Yeah, so for me, I feel like the principles that we really have to put in line as women redesign in medicine is not theory being the main thing that's governing us, but us women having to redesign medicine from real life experiences. Yeah, I feel like that's the main thing for me.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Lillian. It's really about it being rooted in the realities of medicine. And as we know, it's not a challenge. It is what it is. Like in many professions, we know that medicine is male coded, and maybe it is structured in a way that has not always included the realities of women. And I think we will definitely get back. We'll get into that conversation later in our conversation. Dr. Ali, for you, I know in the work that you do, it's all about values, or very much rooted in values. What are the values that you believe future healthcare system should be rooted in, that would include or be mindful of women?
Thank you, Dr. Onasimo. I'm glad to be part of this today. For me, I would look at it, just from a patient standpoint and also from a physician standpoint, things like dignity when it comes to women's health, where, women are believed, with their responses initially and not dismissed as you're being emotional about this or you're overreacting about this, where our feelings, our symptoms do matter and are taking, in with the same severity as if it were a man. And also safety, very important as part of the values for women in the workforce and also for patients. From a personal standpoint, I know the struggles that I had, from a training standpoint, and part of those I felt would not have happened if I were a man, right? There'd be certain things that I would have been more vocal about, and I did not want to respond in a certain way that it felt, oh well, it's just because you're being emotional about this, and so preserving my dignity would have been being taking the weight of what I said as serious as if it were a man who said it. And I've seen, other physicians, even as a popular physician coach that I know of who was at MD, who presented to the hospital with severe symptoms of sepsis and was thought of being anxious. That was the initial dismissal, that she was in an anxiety state. And so that robs you of your dignity when your symptoms are not taught as severe, or they're put it to the side as this was just an emotional response. And so I see a system where dignity and safety are at the forefront of the values in a designed by women.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Ali. I think that was really well articulated. When we think about some of the systems really having the skill set to understand male coded articulations of frustration, and as you said, perhaps using a different way of ensuring that the way women might express themselves and articulate their frustrations would be different. So we do need a system that is sensitized to both men and women. Thank you for that. So, as we think about these values, and I'm going to stay with you, Dr. Ali, because I know you also are doing some academic work, but the other colleagues will also weigh in. When we think about these values, and if these values that we've identified actually guided investment and research priorities, right? What are the areas of women's health that you think would move faster or finally received the attention that it has not received up to now?
Oh, there's a whole spectrum of that, but I'll try to narrow it down as the ones we commonly see. So especially when it comes to autoimmune disorders, right, which women represent about 80% of autoimmune in terms of population compared to men. From my experience, those are the one of the cases I would say that it takes a long delay in diagnosis or even believing these symptoms. And so, in a system where if we were to advance research and this was led by women, I believe that things like autoimmune disorders, we would have earlier diagnosis, earlier treatment, prompt responses, more serious responses, right, to those complaints. And even when it comes to issues surrounding, pregnancy, menopause, PMS, name it, that center around women's health, if research were geared towards that, a lot of symptoms that women deal with, we would have a quicker response time, quicker treatment. Women will show up better to the workforce, knowing that they were heard, they were treated. Patients would feel better knowing that they were heard by their doctor and there's something in place to make sure that their symptoms are not pushed to the side.
Very well said. I know, Dr. Maisha, you've got something to add for sure around that.
Of course, menopause is high, high on the list of things that I think would be advanced in terms of research, because I think that's something that, with a bit of ageism, has been pushed to the side. We're just now, like, really touching the tip of the iceberg with that, but also. Really, kind of alongside of what Dr. Ali said is like rare diseases. I think rare diseases in women would probably get more attention if we had women leading the research efforts.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Lillian, I see Dr. Ngwenya has joined us. I know she has some technical issues, but in the meantime, Lillian, I don't know from where you sitting as a medical student, perhaps you might have also had reflections on this and where you think the research priorities might be for women.
All right, thank you so much. So for me, I feel like I'll just add on what the senior doctors have already said. I feel like issues that have to do with mental health with regard to postpartum, postmenopausal, yeah, I feel like those are things that are just overlooked, and I feel like they really affect, or just young girls like us. I think the different hormonal cycles we have to go through affect our moods, and that's not something everyone understands. And yeah, girls just have to numb their feelings here and there, just not to be seen as weak. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful to hear from a different generation of up and coming doctors. Dr. Skululiwe Ngwenya, welcome, and apologies for the technical issues. Just to introduce everybody, Dr. Skululiwe Ngwenya is based in Zimbabwe. She's an experienced medical doctor with a strong interest in digital health, in emerging technologies, and also she's a blogger and she's fascinated by technologies that enhance the patient experience and passionate about evidence-based clinical care. So welcome, Dr. Ngwenya. Can you hear us? I wonder if you can hear us. Okay. All right. So we missed that. I'm sure they're going to bring her up again. So maybe while we are on the issue of the research priorities, often, as we build evidence, what we want to see is that evidence becoming policy, and policies that are actually shaped by the lived experiences of women. So if we were to translate what we have discussed so far into policy, how do you think that the policy changes, or how do you think health policy changes when women's lived realities are treated as essential data? So, and aligning also with the lived reality. Let me ask Dr. Ali.
So I would lean in the sense of, especially when it comes to reproductive health, right? That's a huge chunk of a woman's life. There are a lot of policies that do not favor women at different stages of their life, especially when it comes to their careers, where sometimes pregnancy is seen as an interruption to a woman's work life, as opposed to seeing it as a gift or a joy. So it's almost, let me give a practical real life scenario. If you're a residency training program and then you get pregnant, it's almost like you're not being considerate of your training, as opposed to this being a thing of joy. Then it's almost a thing of dread, where then you have that fear that if I do go in and tell that I'm pregnant, what would that look like for my training? And so it puts then a lot of stress on the pregnant individual. And down the line, it then impacts her career, because she has this gap and it says, why did you take off during this so and so time, and gets penalized. So I believe that if we had policies in place based on these experiences that would account for these changes in women's lives, pregnancy, childbearing, knowing that right after 6 weeks is probably not enough time for a mother to stay with her newborn, and there's a lot of anxiety that goes into that, extending those time frames as to when she is comfortable, paid leaves, extended paid leaves, as opposed to having to decide between, you know if she's a sole caregiver, how can I balance providing for my family, going back to work, and living my newborn? So I think that policies would center a lot about women's reproductive health, especially when it comes to the pregnancy part.
Mm-hmm. Welcome back, Dr. Ngwenya. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. I don't know if I'm audible now.
Absolutely perfect. So we're just going to jump straight into it, just to give you an opportunity as well to weigh in. I know you're going to hit the ground running. So we're really talking about policy. I'm not sure if you heard the conversation. So we've basically talked about some of the values that we believe would guide the investment and research priorities, the areas of women's health that we think would then be informed by those values. And so we're now really at a point where we're wanting to translate that into policy. And so the question is really, how do you think the health policy changes when women's lived realities are treated as data or are considered?
Thank you for that question. I think for women's health, there's need to have more inclusive involvement of women in the processes of research or testing of technology, devices, and healthcare products, so that these devices can really help the women that they are targeted for. So I believe that the policies, they also need to consult women at different levels, whether be it care providers, patients, people in the community, and so forth, and really include the voices of everyone. Every woman's voice needs to be heard.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And thank you for that. And I think that's a great segue, maybe to draw Lillian into the conversation as well. When you often talk about women, we're not one monolith, right? And so they are. We don't have one life, one body. And I'm curious, Lillian, from your perspective as a medical student, what are the policies that you think would best reflect young people or that need to be considered in developing health policies?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. I believe there's so many gaps that are there right now, and I feel like how best can I put this? Right now, being a girl in medicine is no longer. Most people will think you're being too ambitious. I feel like now the that myth is going down a bit because we have more women in medicine. But I feel like best believing in us. I feel like as young girls, helping us. I think like having females that have gone before us that can show us the route and tell us that it's possible could help us. I feel like that brings about mentorship for young student physicians. So I feel like issues to do with mentorship, especially for female student physicians, I feel like could go in best for us.
And yes, definitely, we have a lot of life experience amongst us. And so maybe I'm going to throw this question back. And I think Dr. Ellie touched on it, but maybe the rest of the panel is also well positioned to talk on this. Building on what Dr. Ellie mentioned earlier about medical careers that take into account normal life events like caregiving, like pregnancy, like maternity leave, like menopause. What would what would medical careers look like if those were considered and those parts were, or those aspects were just part of professional life rather than what it is at the moment, which is disruptions to one's career trajectory. Dr. Ngwenya, what do you think?
I think life events should be treated as normal events that can happen, whether be it motherhood or fatherhood. It shouldn't mirror what people think is possible for the girl child or for the boy child. I believe that there should be support and flexibility in the workplace where opportunities should not be refused to people because you're likely going to be pregnant, especially if you are young. You think that you're going to be pregnant every 6 months or something like that, but it's not realistic. Whatever choices that you make in your personal life shouldn't affect your career. And I think also as women, we also need to support each other as well and not feel like if someone needs to take a breastfeeding hour or something, they're slacking off work or something like that. We are all women at the end of the day, and we should be our biggest support network.
Dr. Maisha, I know that you work with organizations, and so you know firsthand how this plays out in workplaces. Can you weigh in on that issue? What would it look like to have medicine reflect the realities of our lives?
Absolutely. I think that, coming back to centering the values again, if we're embodying those values of community and collaboration, nurture, love, shared leadership, what we're going to see is a difference in how the job shows up in general. We may end up with more job sharing just to reflect the flexibility of the life that we lead as women. We will likely have more coverage, as Dr. Nguyen, forgive me, Winya said around these normal life events and how we need to support and cover for one another. And so I think there will be more of an emphasis on community and coverage. And then overall, we see longevity in our careers. So because we have that support, because we would have that potential for job sharing, not all people want to work full time. And so to be able to have that type of collaboration will bring us more capacity to work, to bring our best selves, more career longevity, less burnout, less moral injury. And I think overall for organizations, better retention of top tier physicians and talent.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you for that. Let's look at, I was going to talk about burnout, but let's move forward so that we can talk about the issue of success metrics. And maybe we will introduce burnout, as you've already mentioned. And if burnout was important, how might we need to rethink how we measure, what we measure, and also what we reward as success in medicine, compared to now, where it's really about productivity, right? The RVUs, the number of patients that you see. If we were to center women or redesign medicine, what might those success metrics look like? Let's ask Dr. Ali.
So I would lean towards patient experiences and patient outcomes as being the metrics, where I don't have to see 30 patients a day, but and churn out poor quality or quality outcomes. But if the 15 that I see and spend time with, and you're able to measure their health patterns from when they started and where they are now, and you see that their diabetes is better, their depression is better, their high blood pressure is better, they feel like they can be in charge of their health, and you are able to measure those metrics based on not the volume now, but the quality of patients, um, that would be a great measure. Um, the current system, like you said, doesn't favor patient quality. It focuses a lot on patient quantity. How many can you see? How, get those numbers up, but then not take into fact that that time was not enough for the patient to feel like that they heard their doctor, or for the doctor to go down deep into the issue. So this is a non-compliant patient. And then all we're focusing is, well, you're not compliant, but we don't have that time to actually sit and find out that there's some struggles with transportation, there's some struggles with finances, and all we do is just, okay, make sure you take your medication and then prescribe more. And then they come back again in 3 months. You're going to have the same outcome at the next visit that you did because of the time. So you have the numbers, but the quality of patients are still at the same level. So quality, I think, and patient experiences would be the metrics I believe should be used to replace for success.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, maybe less about the productivity and more about outcomes for patients. Dr. Esco, I know you're working in digital health as well, and this might translate a little bit differently. From your perspective in that space, I wonder if you agree with Dr. Ali, but also how would, what are the metrics of success that you think could replace the ones that we have currently that are so focused on productivity?
Thank you. For me, the metrics I agree with what Dr. Ali was saying. I would add that we also need metrics to do with tracking of patients if they have missed visits, missed refills. If there are no shows, we need to know what happened to them. And patients also, they get lost. Lots of times, there are many things that happen within the 3 months in between the visits. Sometimes they go and find that the insurance is not paying for their medication, and they can't get a slot to see the doctor again. So that means they're going to wait for 3 months before they come back, unless they get admitted, which is something that we would definitely wouldn't want to happen. So there are lots of things that digital health and AI and technologies that are there these days could help with, especially with the tracking, even monitoring the diabetes over time. Sometimes in some clinics, patients are seen by different providers every time they go for a visit, especially in public hospitals, which makes continuity of care something that in the current state, leaving a lot to be desired. But if things are being presented digitally in a way that is helpful for the patient and the provider, it means that the devices in front of us are not being obstacles of care, but are actually helping us improve the outcomes, improve the productivity and efficiency of the clinics in our hospitals and facilities.
Mm-hmm. And staying with you then on the digital and the AI, I think obviously if we're talking about the future, we have to acknowledge those changes, right? Where we are going to see a bigger role for AI and technology and digital systems. What is the role of those tools in enhancing the experience for women in medicine?
For me, I think the best tool, probably many women have experienced the period tracker app or the pregnancy tracker app. I feel that if every aspect of medicine is as good as those health tracker apps, it means that these tools are actually used for the purpose that they need to be used. The tools, they also need to be efficient for the doctor, for the specialist, in ensuring that there's continuity of care and no one is left guessing why this patient is on warfarin or why this drug was stopped and things like that. But in the current state, with the paper records and the systems that don't communicate with each other, lots of information, precious information is lost or not communicated well across providers or even with the patients themselves. So there's really lots that is happening now, and there's lots that is going to happen in the future to improve experiences for both care providers and patients. And I'm glad to be part of the movement, and people make experiences much, much better for women across the board.
Mm-hmm. Lillian, I'm not going to assume, but please forgive me for assuming as a young person that probably you're already very much involved in the utilization of technology. So from your perspective as a medical student, how might AI and digital health and all of those evolve if their primary goal was women-centric?
Oh, thank you. So just to add on what Dr. Ngoni and Dr. Ali said, I feel like having patient modules would really help us in the hospital, because I feel like doctors would have patient information on their phones at their homes, and they have enough time to check through and study everything they have to study on the different patients they'll see the following day. And I feel like that does not only buy them time, but also I feel like it gets them prepared for what they're going to meet when they come to the ward the following day. So I believe like with digital health that's coming up, we could have patient modules, like have a module in hospital for everywhere, every patient's details or the labs they've ever done, what they're taking is being recorded for each patient. Then every doctor has access to that module for each patient. That way, I feel like, because honestly for me, we do have times where they did order for ultrasound, but then you ask the relatives like, where is the ultrasound, and they have no idea. Then you have to again send them to radio to do it, which is time. And I feel like that's what increases the lines there and whatnot. So I feel like having it online will really buy us time and better patient outcome.
Mm-hmm. Just staying with you, Lillian, by the time one completes medical training, and I think in most countries you're looking at least 10 to 15 years, the world that you, when you started and the world that you leave at the end, right, of your medical training is not the same. And I'm wondering how, with the disruptive nature of medicine, what are the roles that you anticipate might change? And what are the new roles you think that healthcare needs right now that don't yet exist, but probably should? Lillian?
I feel like for my country, I'm going to speak for us. I feel like we don't have so many nurses, as they don't employ as much nurses as we should have in our hospitals. So I believe us employing or having more nurses, especially because they do have a one-to-one relationship with most patients, would really help us. So yeah, I feel like I would wish for us to have maybe moderate amount of doctors, but more nurses, just to allow for patients to really have easy healthcare services near them. I don't know if I answered the question right.
Yeah. Dr. Ali, I know you are in academic medicine, and this question might have come up for you as well. What are the new roles that you see for the future, if you were to design it as a woman, of course, and also what are the roles that you think are no longer going to exist in the future?
Okay, before I answer that, I'd just like to piggyback on that digital advancement when it comes to AI, because I'm in that field now where we are begging for AI scribes where I work, and we're asking, hey, please give it to us. And the reason why I feel it'd be so helpful for us would be, we enter a patient's room and all we're doing, we're on this, like we're typing, we're trying to meet up with those demands. We have those notes we're supposed to close. They give us deadlines. These notes need to be closed in 3 days. You need to submit this. And for me, what that will look like is, if I do have a scribe that takes the necessary information when I'm in the room, I can focus on the patient. Like, I don't have to worry that, oh, did I miss this? Did I miss that? Like, they have my undivided attention. And so they don't leave there feeling like the doctor was on the screen the whole time and they listen to me. And I always tell them, look, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to make sure everything you say is documented. So if we do have those that come in AI scribes, they would save the physician time, because a big thing with us is burnout, right? And so when half of your work is already done before you leave the room, then you can close up those notes. You can go home. You can spend that time with your family. And so your patients benefit from that. You're not as stressed out. Then you get home and your family can also enjoy you, because you're not, half of you is not trying to meet up with the demands of work. So I believe that once we advance in that, that would solve a whole lot of problems. Now, regarding the roles that I believe should come in play when it comes to the future of healthcare, coaching is a big thing. Coaching is a very big thing that I believe should be afforded to every, physician, everyone who's going into the medical space. In the past, it wasn't coaching wasn't well embraced because people did not understand the dynamics of it. But now we see the roles they play, even for physicians, right? Mental health coaching. Now there's a whole sphere of coaching. They're even charting coaching. You're struggling with your charts. There's someone who can help you sort that out. And so mental health, I believe, plays a huge role in physician lives. And I believe that if coaching was something that is embraced completely, um, every organization would give physicians access to coaching, be it business, even business coaching. You're a physician and you're so, medicine is all you know, but then you want to know, okay, if I want to deliver the best care to my patients, I know I have to know a bit about business, so that whatever I'm doing, I can multiply it, because that multiplication comes with finances. But then you have no clue what to do differently. So even business coaches should be a thing for organizations to think. We have this physician who wants to grow in this area. Let's make sure this is available. So I believe that coaching should take a very big role in the future of healthcare, and organizations should look for how they can fund these for physicians who are in those spaces.
Right. And Dr. Maisha, you knew I was coming to you definitely as a coach, but as somebody who really understands the career development space, and where new roles could potentially exist in the future that we might not have today, that would speak really to the challenges that we have in healthcare. How do you want to weigh in on that?
Well, what I want to say is that when we talk about metrics, and I'm going to come right back to this, one of the things that is often left out is the stories of the community. And stories are the stories and can lead to the data that we need to create those outcomes. And so what I'm thinking in terms of like what might exist that doesn't exist today is a community liaison. maybe that community, maybe there are community liaisons that are healthcare professionals, physicians, but they're also the community liaisons that are from the community. And so then what happens is that you start to gather the stories of what's going on in the community and begin to measure community outcomes and measure those stories and measure the trends and the progress. And that's a different way to think about metrics. I think also just on the physician side, to bring it back a little bit physician centric, one of the things that technology can do is similar to what Dr. Ali said, is oftentimes when we're finished with a patient visit, we like to give a summary. And oftentimes we spend a lot of mental energy trying to translate that summary into what would be understandable by the patient. So I wonder if one of the evolutions of AI would be to translate for us from what our summary is to what the patient would understand based on their language, environments, level of understanding. And I think so there could be a role around creating technology or AI technology in that domain as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. So we're almost at the end, but I do want to squeeze this question in about the future generation of girls that are coming up. As we know, medicine nowadays really is represented, is no longer the profession that we probably found, which had less women than men. I think for the last 5 years now, we've seen more and more young girls entering the profession. So the question is really, if we were to look beyond the institutions, what shifts when future generations of girls grow up seeing themselves everywhere in medicine? We still know that there are some male-coded specialties, for example. But what would shift if they were able to see themselves everywhere? Let me start with Dr. Lillian, because I know you are already in that space.
I thank you so much. I feel like it wouldn't be so hard for us to come out of our shells. Yeah, I feel like we would boldly come out and do everything because the world already believes we can be anything. Yeah, I think that's everything.
Thank you for that. Dr. Ngwenya?
Girls would have big dreams and big goals, like straddling across academia or business, having your own clinic, doing great things out there. I think we need lots of examples like that, especially in the African setup. So I really look forward to that in the future.
Mm-hmm. So we are at the end of our session and we just have a few minutes remaining. And I wonder, just as a wrap up, if I could have just really 30 seconds from each of you about your dream about the future of medicine as designed by women. Let's start with Dr. Maisha.
Thank you so much. I envision a time when we no longer say the first woman in this specialty, the first woman in this leadership position, the first woman president of a hospital. I envision when there are so many girls seeing us do the things that we do, that that will cease to exist.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Ali?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. As I wrap up, I would like to say my vision for this would be where women are not just limited to one space, where you can have a good family life, you can have an excellent career life, where you don't have to choose between how many kids do I have versus how serious do I want people to take me in my career, or without putting a stop. It's like I can thrive both at home and I can thrive both in the workforce. So you bring your best selves to every sphere that you dominate.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. Lillian?
Thank you so much. So, I believe and wish that the future medicine will be not the rough medicine we entered into. I wish medicine could be a better place for females, a dream they'll achieve knowing very well that they'll find pride in it, work fully without knowing it would take a lot from them because treatment is really a calling. So I hope and wish that this is going to be a safe place and a great place for all the girls out there that are coming right now and after us. Yeah, thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Lillian. Dr. Ngwenya?
Thank you. I think medicine should be flexible, have flexible healthcare delivery options for both care providers and patients. I should be able to do whatever I want as a woman and still be able to fit in all the needs, medical, social, and be able to do it all.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you so much. So I really want to thank Dr. Maisha, Dr. Ali. I call her Dr. Lillian. I know she's still a medical student, but I call her Dr. Lillian, and Dr. Sko for your honesty, for your rigor, and the seriousness that you also brought into this conversation. So as we close, I just really wanted to reflect on what we've done here. Of course, the aim was not to solve the problems of medicine today. Ours was just to name some of the important things, some of the many pressures that we face as women and that we experience in medicine. And what I think came out of this conversation is that these are not personal failures. This conversation is not going to stay only in this room, I believe. I think already all of you are doing so much work already in your own spaces, and hopefully the mindfulness that comes from these conversations means that we're going to continue to impact how we lead as women, into how policies are written, how structures are designed, medical training, and how our careers are also structured. So your contribution has really assured me that the future of medicine is in good hands, and certainly the work will continue beyond this evening. So thank you very much for all of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Grow up, I am going to be really good at my job. I am going to work hard and hopefully get promoted and make good money. And I'm going to check my email all the time, any time of day. I'm probably going to burn out every few months, every few weeks. We'll see. And I'm definitely going to cry alone in my car. That's the dream. No. Welcome to the Fulfillment Code, how women in tech can break through burnout to build C-suite legacies. Because the future of tech depends on women who refuse to choose between ambition and well-being. I'm Jackie Roby, Executive Leadership Advisor and Peak Performance Strategist. Now on this slide, or looking at LinkedIn, Googling my name, you can see my accolades. But what I find to be the most important fact is that I'm a Latina who lives with depression, anxiety, and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. What you'll learn today is a new definition of success that measures sustainable C-suite readiness, not hustle. A 10-second tool that you can use wherever, whenever, to help find you calm, and how you can build support systems that retain women in tech. Because 57% of women in tech burn out, and we've got to change that. The problem is the stories that are running in your head. Keep pushing forward no matter the cost. No pain, no gain. Oh, I'm so busy. We are ingrained in this hustle culture and it is killing us. But look at this. Is this the kind of leader you want to be? Is this the kind of leader that you trust? Or what about being cool, calm, and collected? It's not about performing. No, it's about really, truly feeling this deep in your bones. Now, what's happening right now is you are living in survival mode, but it's not your fault and you have the capability to change this. I used to operate the same way. It was a pattern in my career. The more stressed I got, the harder I worked. I thought that was the answer, but it never worked out that way. Instead, I would burn out. My work would actually suffer. I might have worked longer hours, but the quality wasn't there. It impacted my relationships at home and at work, and I fell into really deep depressions. Not awesome. The thing is, your amygdala is firing nonstop, so you're in fight, flight, freeze, appease. But because of neuroplasticity, we can create change. Success without well-being is just expensive poverty. And I'm going to say that again. Success without well-being is just expensive poverty. So let's talk emotional regulation. Social emotional learning is being taught to kids in school right now. It's that important, but we were not given that. Or maybe we were given one course once upon a time, or you got to do it digitally and pretend that that made everything better, but it doesn't. So let's do a 10-second tip. That's what we've got time for today. Whenever you're feeling stressed, irritated, upset, whatever it is, and you don't have the time to feel your feelings, some quick tactile things. See this? Touch your fingers, tap your fingers. It is a very simple thing to do, and it interrupts the negative pattern in your brain. Studies have shown that when you do 15 minutes of mindfulness a day consecutively, after 8 weeks, you're going to see a change in an MRI scan. We are building new neural pathways that are stronger towards your frontal lobe, towards your prefrontal cortex. Why? Because we want to improve your innovation, your productivity, creativity, calm, wisdom, and guess what? Happiness. Yeah, I said it. This will make you happier too, in addition to all the cool work stuff that you're going to do. Women leave tech roles at a 45% higher rate than men. How do we change that? We need to build the support systems that are retaining women in tech. Does your company have employee resource groups? If so, are you participating? If not, how are you building community? And when you say my community is my friends and family, that's great, and I applaud that, but that is not enough. What are the questions you're asking to your peers? How curious are you getting? Is it just a professional conversation, or are you honoring them for their whole being? Networking is more than the exchange of business cards. Are you networking outside of your industry? There's so much power in that. I challenge you today to ask one peer of yours who you've only said professional things to. Ask them a question that's about them, that's different than business. If you need an example, what's bringing you joy today? The future of tech depends on women who refuse to choose between ambition and well-being. So your 3 power moves. Redefine success. It's not hustle, it's well-being. Give yourself 10 seconds of calm all throughout the day. Work on that emotional regulation and create a legacy with community and well-being. Now, if this is of interest to you, if you want to do more, work on your emotional regulation, find that calm, that wisdom, grow community in new ways, work on retaining your women in tech. Let's start the conversation. There's a free resource for you, 3 stress myths keeping you stuck and the simple fixes that actually work. Because success without well-being is just expensive poverty.
My father was a gambler. he's satisfied is when he's on a drug. Oh, mothers, tell your children not to do what I have done. Spend your lives in sin and misery in the house of the rising sun. Well, I got one foot on the platform, the other foot on the trail. Going back to New Orleans to wear that ball and chain. Well, there is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know